Previously, Mash was born without the magic ability, which is a problem since it is the most important thing in society. Those who can have a mark on their face while those without are eradicated. Whilst experiencing tough times in life, Bernadette finds the abandoned baby Mash and decides to raise him as his own. He understood Mash's lack of magic was going to be a problem, so instead, he raised him to be big and strong instead. One day, the magic police catch wind of Mash's existence and launch an attack on him and his dad, but he manages to defeat them without magic, which surprises everyone. The leader of the special unit named Brad promises them that as long as they are alive, they will continue to hunt him down. However, he proposes that if Mash excels in school and becomes the best student in Magic Academy, he would stop hunting him and accept him into society. Things continue as Mash continues to eat his favorite dessert, cream puffs. While his roommate, Finn, is studying, he interrupts to ask if he could borrow his broom for class. The following day, the guy brought a giant plant root thinking it was a broom, which surprised Finn. Finn reluctantly agrees to allow him to borrow it. Mash expresses his gratitude, stating that he knew his roommate was a great guy at heart. The following day, the students gather together while the tutor introduces the broom writing lesson. She explains that one must channel their magic energy into the broom and command it with a special word. Fly. The next step is to straddle the broom and control the magic to keep it afloat. She instructs them to begin immediately. The students begin to command their brooms in an orderly manner. I am interested to see how Mash is going to get away with this one before he even begins. He reiterates the reason why he must succeed before commanding his broom to fly, but to no avail. His lack of magic power leaves him standing there, unable to levitate his broom. A student begins to mock him for not being able to complete the task and comments on how he's slowing down the rest of the class. Mash does not like this reaction by his classmate and responds by lifting the broom with a stamp of his foot whilst delaying his fly command until it happened. The student watches on gobsmacked for a moment. He calls him a cheater, saying that his broom flew before Mash's command. Their argument is cut short as the teacher announces time trials that will be held to determine the fastest students. The student decides to use it as an opportunity to wage war against Mash and embarrass him. The loser has to submit to the winner until graduation. Mash agrees. So they line up prepared to race as the tutor stands ready to get the thing started. The student is very confident that he will win because unlike the new students, he has been riding brooms since middle school. The tutor recognizes Mash as the class clown that interrupted the lesson with his strength during their past exams. She doesn't have much faith that he can ever ride his broom. As soon as the race begins, Mash dashes at blistering speed to the end. The student is left gobsmacked at what he just witnessed. This leaves the teacher annoyed, however, she is still impressed as she comments on his incredible speed and announces a new world record has just been set. His classmates are confused at what they just witnessed. Finn reveals that he got a good look at what Mash just did. As soon as the teacher said start, the guy launched the broom and immediately dashed towards the finish line at eye-watering speeds. Mash turned into a physicist and used the air resistance to act as brakes, which also gave him the chance of closing the gap and mounting on the broom. He can't even fathom how that's possible. All the while, the arrogant student runs over to Mash, adamant that cheated, refusing to believe what he just witnessed. Mash doesn't say much but does state that he feels bad for him as he can't face the fact that he lost. Out of respect for others, Mash decides to drop the wager just before the arrogant student can run his mouth again. He apologizes on his behalf for his rudeness, revealing that the arrogant student is his friend. The other students watch on, worried at the fact that Cabell is talking to Mash, and they comment that he's now a target. Now they all agree to stay out of it as they no longer want any trouble, but they still feel bad for Mash as he is Cavill's first victim. Now that they have moved to high school, the bootleg Draco Malfoy admits that the feat he just performed caught his attention and offers a resolution and friendship with Mash. Cavill introduces himself and Mash completely butchers his name to the point most would take it as an insult. The whole class falls silent after hearing the name butchering. Cavill tries to hide his frustration whilst he prepares to cast a spell. However, the teacher stops and intervenes, reminding him that they are still in class and must act accordingly. The Wish version of Malfoy finds Mash hilarious and suggests that they meet again at their exact location after school. The magic student agrees after the lesson. Cavill pulls the arrogant student to a secluded place and begins to beat him for losing in such a spectacular fashion. Meanwhile, the roommates walk the corridors. When Mash wants to know more about Cavill, Finn begins his exposition by stating that Cavill is a continuing student from the Academy Middle School Division, just like him. Everyone is afraid of him because his father is a high-ranking member of the Bureau of Magic and the organization is the highest of their world. Mash gives shifty eyes as he states that he knew that when he was oblivious to the fact. Finn simplifies it by saying that if someone stands against him, they would get expelled immediately. The vice principal of the academy has close ties with the bully's family. This malicious Dew has tormented countless students over the years, which is why everyone obeys and fears the guy. After school, Mash bakes cream puffs, as making them from scratch once in a while is fun. But he feels like he's forgetting something important. His hunch turns out to be true, as the Cavil and his lackeys are waiting for him, and the guy is annoyed that he has not shown up yet. The following day, Mash removes his books in preparation for the next class and notices that it is in a bad state and comments that it is quickly falling apart. Cavil watches on laughing, since they know there is something more sinister going on. Their boss comes to confront Mash about not attending their meeting the previous day. He realizes that was right and having a hunch and apologizes, explaining that he was making cream puffs, which enrages Cavil, but he swiftly changes the topic as he was caught because he knows Mash is aiming to be a divine visionary. He uses his close relationship with the vice principal to promise him a favorable word. All Mash has to do is follow his orders and not stick out like a sore thumb. So the magic guy quickly agrees to the terms and conditions without reading the fine prints, but he finds it strange that such a deal has come about. All of a sudden, Cavil informs him that he just wants to help him out because he seems like a fun person. He has Mash hold their items, polishing his shoes among other things. He gets back to his next lesson and finds that that book was destroyed once again. He asks Finn if he can share and poses himself even though he is reluctant. Mash thanks him again for all his help and even gives him some cream puffs to show his gratitude. He ends it by stating how lucky he is to have a great guy like him as a friend. Later on, Mash gets a drink for Cavil, but he deliberately pours it on the floor and asks him to clean it, which he does. During the interim, it is revealed that it was Finn, under the orders of Cavil, who was destroying his books. They want him to take things a step further and burn his clothes. But the kind words Mash spoke to him earlier gives Finn the strength to refuse. Cavil wastes no time and activates his thread spell that pins Finn to the ground. The boss informs him that he has made a huge mistake, which is why he must drop down and beg for forgiveness. All the while, Mash looks for Finn when he realizes that he still has his book. The magic student overhears the sound of someone getting beaten and goes to check it out. He arrives to find Finn on the ground bleeding. Cavil tells Mash that he is only getting an apology from the guy. Mash makes his way over to Finn to make sure he's ok, but Finn doesn't care about his current state. He begins to cry, confessing that it was him that destroyed his books under the orders. Mash calling him a friend hit him deeply, so he felt compelled to apologize to him. Cavil tries to manipulate Mash by informing him that he is heading to meet with the vice principal and drops him an invite, proclaiming that it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Mash just walks up to him and bounces his head off the floor, knocking him out instantly. He tells Cavil that he is the one who needs to apologize, not Finn. The bullies are shocked by what Mash just did, giving the respected status of Cavil. Finn tells him that his actions will get him expelled. After lots of thinking, he realizes that what he has just done may land him in some hot water. Vice Principal Farman appears out of nowhere and agrees with Mash's statement. He reveals that Cavil's father has entrusted him to look after his son. He witnessed the entire incident. Mash is happy to hear this because that means his name will be cleared of any wrongdoing. But to his surprise, Farman plans to twist the situation to make Mash look like the aggressor and even tells them that a school conference will be held regarding their roles in this incident. Vice Principal Farman Kragos begins to explain that Cavil is of a much higher status, which means he gets different treatment. Before he can finish his explanation, Mash makes his situation worse by dashing over and kneeing the vice in the face. Finn and the lackeys almost die from shock. Mash explains that he only attacked because it seemed like Farman wasn't interested in the truth. So while he's already in hot water for his first attack, the second one wouldn't make a big difference in his current standing, which is a fair point. Farman holds his face, complaining that Mash has just assaulted him. He informs him that he can expel ordinary students like him at any time. He tries to attack the magic student, but he counters by slapping mud in his face. Mash begins to dig, and he places the vice inside before covering it. Mash threatens him that he can be buried alive at any moment. Even if he's apprehended, he will find him and bury him alive. The vice principal pleads for him to stop as he throws mud to cover him up. Later on, Mash is called to the principal's office. Wahlberg reads his transgressions and informs him that this incident is seen as a problem with the Bureau of Magic. He received a notice from them to expel him effective immediately. The headmaster states that the Bureau is the country's highest legal authority. He will even go as far as to say that they control the country as a whole. The Academy furnishes the Bureau with those who attain the top honors at the Academy, given Cavil's status, What he has done is unforgivable. But what Wahlberg finds more egregious is a world where caring is seen as a disadvantage. As he burns, the Bureau notices he discloses his concern about the current state of things in the world. This was the main reason he took the position as headmaster of the academy years ago. He sees that at the top, things only work to serve the elites. He acknowledges that there are few people like Mash who sacrifice themselves for what is right. The divine visionaries who lead the Bureau have their role to carefully consider what people desire, which is why he hopes that someday Mash will become a divine visionary. Mash confirms, telling the headmaster that he already plans to become one, leaving the old man happy. Mash gets information overload when he tries to explain how to achieve that goal. So he simplifies it by stating that you will earn high marks in his classes and school activities and acquire as many gold coins as possible. Wahlberg promises to deal with the Bureau and the vice principal. This will allow Mash to focus on achieving his goals. As the student leaves, Wahlberg sees one more problem that Mash will eventually face, but he has faith that he will overcome it. Mash makes his way back to his dorm where Finn waits. He ended up with no punishment. However, his beating of Cavill and the Vice gained acknowledgement from the other students. The following day, he is recruited to play despite enlightening him that he can't yet ride a broom. The day of the match arrives and the crowd goes wild. All the players fly on their broomsticks as they play the game. Mash tells them that he can't fly, so they start to heckle him by throwing things at him that brings the episode to an end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for daily uploads.